Good morning, traders. Here we are. It's 11 a.m. almost. It's a minute before. It's 10:59 a.m. Eastern time. We're here with Top Trades live with Greg Guenthner. We've got markets moving. It's kind of a feel good or feel interesting week, at least for stocks. So we've got a lot to cover, and a lot of different charts to look at, a lot of sectors, a little bit of rotation. So we're glad you're here. We'll give it a minute or so. We're live, so we might as well wait for everyone to pop on. Gunner, good morning, sir. How's everything looking from your side?
Good. You say a little bit of rotation. I think it's a lot of rotation and very powerful, sharp rotations happening in the market right now that are driving some stocks that haven't been looking so good much higher. So interesting stuff happening. And also, just to preview some of the stuff we're going to be talking about today, Nvidia's down. It's red. Is that allowed?
Send in someone, hit the button.
Semiconductors getting sold? That's kind of odd. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, if you guys don't know, a little behind the scenes here, not really. Me and Gunner, we do this call every week. We're in the same office. He's like behind me over there. But this week, we've got more people coming in the office. So not only are we excited about the markets and things happening, but I feel like America is getting a little bit back. We're getting back, get some people in the office. We're starting to move. Although we're in Baltimore. It's like the temperature of the surface of the sun. Like it's insane. Not so hot here. So, all right. Well, we gave it a minute. We allowed everyone to get on. We're live on YouTube. I'll do a couple of disclaimers. I haven't done these all the time, but you should know it, right? We're going to be covering investing on the call. All investing has risk, and nothing that me or Gunnar talk about on the call should be considered personalized investment advice. But the chat is open there. As always, if you just want to say hi, do it. If you want to put some tickers in that you want to see if Gunnar can talk about, if you've got any questions, go ahead, throw them in there. We love the comments, and we're glad that we're surrounded by, and this is Gunner's doing, right? Gunner has the trading desk. It's a paid publication. We're glad to be surrounded by a cool community, Gunner included, but a lot of you guys have a lot of insight, a lot of market experience. And we're glad to have you here on Top Trades and have these comments come in live. So thank you so much for being out there and tuning in. Gunner, I give it to you. Markets are moving. Where should we look? And what do you want to kick off with?
Well, I think the first thing we really have to talk about is the Trump trade and some comments that I made in the chat on Monday that some people bristled at. Now, just to lay everything out right here, this isn't a political comment at all. I think this is just how things are shaping up and how the market is reacting. The election's over as of this weekend and the assassination attempt and all that stuff. I think that the consensus of the market, this isn't my opinion, this is the consensus of the market speaking. But Trump's going to win. He's going to win by a large margin. Biden's going to stay in the race. There's no point in trying to replace him with this insurmountable lead. Why would you waste if you're a younger candidate or somebody looking to run on the Democratic ticket, why would you waste your time losing to Trump this go around when you can wait 4 years? I think that's the prevailing sentiment right now. And the market's trying to figure out basically what that means for stocks. So the market's adjusting to, what it sees right now is pretty much a certainty as far as the election is concerned. So it's a little bit early, obviously. It's still the summer. Anything can happen. But at this moment, that seems to be the direction that the market is taking.
Yeah.
There's
Whose feathers did this ruffle? I didn't see chat yesterday. I was on set on a shoot, but like what happened? Why did this ruffle feathers?
No, I mean, it didn't. I mean, I think it just needs some clarification. I think some folks in chat were basically like, well, that's a pretty bold statement to make. It's not really necessarily my personal opinion. It's the opinion of the market and how the market is adjusting to the reality.
Yeah.
And I think the
Yeah.
reality is that Trump has an insurmountable lead right now. And again, anything can happen, but the market attempts to price in these events. The market's forward looking, and I think that's what the market is looking toward. So
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons that Bitcoin is rallying. It's not the reason, but I think it's one of the reasons. Also, the new VP pick is a holder of Bitcoin, and Trump is pro Bitcoin, much more pro Bitcoin than the other side of the aisle. So it feels like the new regime coming in is going to be much more accommodating of crypto, and I think that's kind of playing into the rally. Again, I don't think that is 100% the reason that Bitcoin is bouncing, but again, I don't think it matters either. I think that also is a piece of the catalyst, a piece of the puzzle here, as to why things are unfolding as they are. And also, if you look at stocks, um, look at like what's happening with Chinese stocks, the big bounces that we saw a couple months ago in Chinese stocks that started to bleed off a little bit. They tried to turn the corner and bounce again as these rotation trades were picking up. They got slammed yesterday as well, presumably on the idea that Trump's going to be harder on China and there's going to be tariffs and that sort of thing. So I think this is more of like an interesting, probably blip on the radar type of Trump trade, is that Smith and Wesson popped big yesterday, and another stock, one that I'm not really familiar with, an ammunition stock, also popped. They're not the best looking charts, but
Mhm.
you can see the market reaction. Again, it's putting the pieces together for a Trump victory in the fall, and it is what it is, and we just have to be aware of how the market views these things and how the market is adjusting in the midst of what is right now a much bigger rotation. You said a little rotation. This is a big, fast rotation that's catching a lot of people off guard. I mean, we've talked about the idea that these rotations are probably going to happen eventually because we saw semiconductors just rip it up every single week. We always joke like, oh, Nvidia's up, another 10% this week. It'll never go down again. Well, obviously that's not the case. It's going to go up until it doesn't, and then it's going to either churn or correct. And there's going to be other stocks that take that baton and take that leadership role. And we saw that begin to unfold late last week in a very dramatic fashion. It hit like a bolt of lightning in the
Mhm.
market, basically, where we saw the NASDAQ wobble and take a hit, and then we saw small caps just explode higher, and they haven't stopped. They've been gapping up and running every single day. The Russell 2000 was up like 2% yesterday. It gapped up another 1% plus today. It's up 2% now. I mean, these stocks are running hard, and it's mostly because no one was expecting it. And when these rotations happen, you get all these people jockeying for position and trying to get into these trades that they weren't involved in. Small caps, it's been an incredibly frustrating trade most of the year. We saw the Russell 2000 catch and really try to lead the market higher in November and December during the melt up rally of last year. And then in
Mhm.
January, it looked like they were breaking out and they totally fizzled. And we'll get into those charts in a minute, but that's just some of what's, kind of happening in this market right now, which is really exciting for us as traders, because when you get these powerful momentum moves that really grab and start going higher, you can really catch some strong trades in a market that really hasn't offered much beyond some of the Mag 7 stocks. So,
I jumped the gun. You see that? This was before that's a pun intended. I jumped in front of Gunner. But this is the other thing that is big news that ties into everything you're saying. This just kind of came out of nowhere, just like you're talking about with fast rotation. Very quickly, what you're looking here is the CME probability of a rate cut.
yeah.
And this was the big conversation the whole year. Oh, we're going to get all these rate cuts. We're going to get this. Oh, we're going to get no rate cuts. There might be a rate hike. Like that's what's happened in the last several months. This one came out of nowhere. This is September, and this is a 93% chance of a cut, of a
Yeah.
0.25% cut. That is huge, and that's exactly what Gunner's saying. This is big, big news, and that's starting to bake in because we're not that far from September. Now it's just setting up for July. They're going to set it up, and then September they're going to cut, and that
Yeah,
is
and I don't know if you
fueling
saw
it.
this, but I believe it was yesterday that Goldman Sachs note dropped that basically chastised the Fed and said, like, if you're going to cut, just do it right now. Why would you even wait till September?
Yeah,
So there are some external pressures now. Folks looking at the numbers think that, like, hey, it's time to start cutting. And this is one of those things where I think the market will run into anticipation of the cut, and then from there, I don't really know, but I do think that we will rally into any cut. It might be a sell the news type of event. Um, we'll have to wait and see how that plays out, because I think overall multiple cuts are going to lead to maybe lower prices in stocks, at least in the short term. Because you'll have folks talking about like economic slowdown and that sort of thing. So
yeah.
um, I think that's how that's going to unfold, though. But there will be a little bit of euphoric action, I think, leading into any type of cut, whether it's sooner than September or September itself. But it looks now that we're about 100% that, like, yeah, we're going to get that quarter point cut. in the late summer, early fall, which will be interesting to see how all
Yeah.
that plays out.
Which again, I don't know how all this stuff works. I'm a conspiracy theorist, but it's like a lot of people were saying they weren't going to do this before the election because it was going to seem political. And maybe it's because it seems like it's going to be a landslide for Trump now. They're like, this isn't going to have impact. Like Trump's going to win. We can cut now and not have it look bad because no one's going to be like, oh, Biden's goosing the economy. I should go vote for him. Like
Yeah,
maybe that's all baking into the pie. It's crazy,
I
but
mean, I
we're
don't
seeing
think
it all
that's
unfold.
I don't think that's conspiracy. I think there's a lot of logic behind something like that. We'll have to see like how they approach it. I don't think that the campaign's just going to completely roll over. I think they're still going to try to, do what they
Yeah.
can. But at the same time, yeah, that might be the case. That there might not be that pressure to try to cut and juice the markets, before November to get people feeling better about, their financial situations.
Yeah. All
So
right. I hear the crowd. They're saying charts, 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 top trades. What do you got for us?
well, let's go here. I guess I got to share my screen, don't
Yeah, I jumped the gun, dude. I did the little CME showing. So I screwed up the momentum here. Let's do it. I want to look at some charts because we got some. I like this rotation idea, and there's a lot of stuff happening out there
you
and
can
a lot of
you
green.
can see it. That's the best part is when you can see these things start to
Look at that.
unfold like this right here. And like just looking at the heat map today, I mean, look at where the red's coming from. It's software and semiconductors. Obviously, it's not like the end of the world for these stocks. I mean, you look at Nvidia, and it's still hanging in there. I mean, we're not that far from the highs. This isn't like a, oh my God, you have to sell every share of Nvidia and run type of moment. But at the same time, it's down 2 of the past 3 days, got a couple bearish engulfing candles. It's leveling out again. This could be similar action to what we saw back here in March, April, May before it really got going again. It just might need to take the summer off. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Um, when I was talking with Doug about my Tesla trade, we kind of framed it as, this is a good opportunity to be taking profits, at least partial profits on a play like Nvidia that's done so well this year, and then try to get into some of these comeback moves. And that was right before the calendar flipped to July. That was in the last week of June, and you can see how this has played out, where you have semiconductors moving kind of sideways, and then you have an unloved or hated controversial stock that has been doing poorly, at least up until recently, like Tesla. And then you see the big pop start to happen here. This isn't like some grandiose statement that I'm trying to make here, but this is the type of action that we've been looking for when it comes to these rotation ideas, what we saw play out in Tesla right at the beginning of July, right here, where it popped above this resistance level right here. And that's a nice little breakout right here, but it really ran with it. Get lots of gaps higher right there. And even on a day when it was down like 8% last Thursday, it started moving higher. And, it's a sloppy consolidation right now. Nonetheless, it's holding those levels in between 250 and 260. So really impressive flows here, people jumping into a trade like this. And again, it's because expectations change so quickly is why these trades play out like this. Everybody hated Tesla until everybody wanted to buy it just a couple weeks ago. And that's exactly how things are playing out with some other parts of the market too. It's not just Tesla anymore. This rotation trade is starting to spread. And the biggest, most obvious rotation right now is into small caps. And you can see just how powerful this move is. It is not letting anybody on board. The strongest trends aren't going to wait around for you to hop onto them. We were talking just a couple minutes ago, Matt, about how this was a difficult, frustrating trade leading up to this breakout right here. And you can see in the chart just how difficult and frustrating it really was after we had such a big thrust off of those October lows and heading into 2024. It looked like we were going to get a much bigger breakout. You can see here, and I'll add a couple lines so you can see what I'm talking about. I mean, small caps, for the most part, did not play nice in 2023 when the rest of the market was jumping off of those bear market lows. It really looked like it was going to roll over and break down to 52-week lows here back in October 2023, just before the melt-up rally hit. You can see what happened, and it looked like a bigger breakout right here. But instead, we didn't get any follow-through. As soon as this broke out, It got smacked down right here and retreated. And what happened instead was everybody forgot about it and grabbed onto those hot semiconductor plays and rode them higher. And each and every time IWM small caps attempted to do anything, it was met with more selling, more chop, and it really didn't go anywhere. And small caps failed to keep up with the major averages. They were lagging way behind all during the first and second quarter. And then all of a sudden, it started to firm up a little bit. Nothing much was happening. It was just sort of hanging out around this $200 mark. IWM was, kind of teasing it. It was breaking above 200, this round number, and then like falling below it. It did that several times. Then it got tighter and tighter until Thursday, when we had this massive gap higher, and it breaks out to new year-to-date highs, and it hasn't stopped since then. It literally hasn't stopped. So how far have we actually gone from those Wednesday? This is less than a week ago. This Wednesday open right here.
Yeah, 11%,
We're
10%.
looking at, yeah, like 10, 11% right here. I think it's about 10. But I mean, that's an incredible move right there in just a week's time. This will chill out eventually, but you can see just the pent up strength in IWM here, a trade that nobody wanted any part of. And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, I guess, this thing is moving and we should buy this. And I don't think
Yeah.
it's any coincidence that some of the Mag 7s and, some of the semiconductors are chilling out a little bit or seeing a little bit of red while the money is rotating into plays like this right now. It's
Yeah.
it's a remarkable move, and I think that this is a preview of what's to come. I'm not saying that it's going to gap higher and be up 2% every day for the second half of the year, but I think we're going to be much higher when we look back in December and heading into January 2025. We'll be much higher than we are from here. There'll be some resets, there'll be some consolidation, but I think this is going to have legs finally, and it's really going to go.
Yeah. And as you always say here, very importantly, charts lead the way, and then we can make up the dialogue behind it. But the dialogue makes sense because that's what we're paying attention to as well. Small caps love lower rates, and they're probably going to like a Trump economy where he's trying to, get a bunch of money flowing. He's pro business. A lot of things going on that makes sense why small caps, these small companies that are marginal or could be going out of business, all of a sudden they can get better rates. They have a better economy. It could be a really good, I don't know, 18 months for these companies. And this is just starting,
Well, also,
looking good.
the smaller companies are going to have much more domestic revenue. So you're probably going to be looking at, some favorable reactions to any whiffs of tariffs or anything that's going to hurt a multinational. It's probably going to be better for a small cap. And again, it might not necessarily play out like that, but that might be the overarching feeling of the market and why some of this rotation is getting pulled forward and it's happening this way. So if you want to assign those things to it, you can. But from a pure price perspective, this thing is absolutely screaming higher. And it's going to be one of those trades where we're going to be watching to see how it consolidates. And then we're going to be wanting to jump into some of these specific plays or some of these ETFs because like I said, I think this could be the trade of the second half of the year or one of the trades of the second half of the year, and it could just be getting started with such a powerful breakout like this.
Yeah.
There's other good rotations happening too right now. It's interesting, we talked about Bitcoin, and I think I should hit on the Bitcoin chart really quickly because it is improving again. It was retreating a little bit earlier this morning, but it's sneaking back up into the mid 64K range right here. What an incredible reversal off of what looked like to anybody paying attention right here, a really nasty breakdown that was going to lead to at least more sideways action for Bitcoin. But, crypto being crypto, it loves to fake us out. We saw this fake out move here that took it back to the top of its range, and then this bigger one right here. And from our conversations over the past couple of weeks, looking at this weakness in crypto and the breakdown right here, when we last talked, Matt, my best guess was that we were probably going to need to hang out in this range somewhere between, I know this is a wide range too, somewhere between 50 and 60 seemed to be like where we were landing at the time. Wasn't necessarily like a big top, and crypto was going to get cut in half and have to retreat all the way back down here to the 2024 lows. We weren't talking about that. We were just saying that, maybe it's time to retest this 51 area, this halfway point of this big rally from early in 2024. maybe it's time to get choppy and reset down here since it failed to break out so many times. But we're right back here in this range. I'm not saying this is going to go to new all-time highs all of a sudden and break out, although I wouldn't be surprised if it did. I've stopped being surprised about things that happen with Bitcoin. I quit that business a long time ago. You just sort of have to go with the flow here. But we're back in this range right here. And if we get back above, 67, 67.5 and get back to this midpoint of this range right here, I think that people are going to get more bulled up on it. Where are those all-time highs? They're right around here, like just above 73K.
Mhm.
For crypto, it's not that far away, really. And now that we're back in this range, who knows? This might lead to some more chop, but the bulls have very quickly taken back control of what was an ugly, ugly chart and looked like we were going to be at a lower for longer situation with Bitcoin right here. And I'm not really up on all the narratives about that was Germany forced selling or all of that. I'm not really sure if that's necessarily true. If it is, it was a great buying opportunity, at least in the short term. But for now, we're back in this range right here. We're gonna have to see how we go because I think it could do a lot of damage if it does get above that 67 mark right there.
Yep. Well, I mean, we said it way back when it was at 70. We're like, it could go to 85, it could go to 55. And the
Yeah,
answer is probably going to be both.
yeah.
So it went to 55, and now the next stop is probably 85.
Yeah, it like
So
moves like and moves like these are really frustrating for us as traders too, because you can get caught up in them and really get turned around. Like our recent Mara trade that we got stopped out of. There was a wide range of results on this trade from people on the trading desk. The people that were more aggressive in taking gains took profits here on this initial breakout right here, and then this is where Bitcoin started breaking down. And
yeah,
Mara wasn't really completely falling apart, but the fact that it looked like it was going to break out, or that it was breaking out right here above 22, and it looked like it could get legs, and instead it went down for more than a week straight and stops us out. That stinks, but again, this is all part of trading. This is what you kind of have to deal with. And then we have this big unexpected breakout here and it continuing. So you can get caught in between these moves right here. Everybody who sold on this initial move right here did great.
yeah. Or
This,
anyone that
this,
didn't sell at all and just closed their eyes and woke up
yeah,
today,
if you
they're
closed
sitting
your
on a
eyes and
gain
said,
too.
okay, this is a zero for me, and then it turns out it was actually a triple digit gain. So,
Yeah.
that's one of the pros and or cons of trading some of these moves. They can be very fast and powerful, but again, they can really catch you on the wrong side too and do some damage.
Yeah. And I don't hide by like me personally and as a publisher and as your friend and colleague, like I don't hide behind any of this stuff. Like I think you guys took a loss on that trade. It started as a gain. It got to a world where you wanted to sell it intentionally, and now it's back to a gain. So it was like it's an ultimate sort of like crappy looking trade, other than some
Yeah,
people might have had wins on it, but officially it's booked as a loss. But I was saying that to someone else internally, like even though you took a loss on that, you are very good at not losing 100% on options, which is very like I know that sounds weird, but like a lot of times, me personally, when I'm playing options, I lose 100% a lot of time because I'm just doing stuff and I don't realize when to actually get out to save a little bit of my premium. Like when you sold this trade, that's where you were in salvage mode. You're like, let's save some premium, get back on the horse some other day. And that's still admirable, even looking back. It's like you can cry over spilled milk and be like, "Oh, we should have taken 100%, or we should have done this." It's
yeah,
like, let the long running track record that Gunner has at the trading desk do the talking. You're very consistent, and it's good that you bring up trades like this. This was a loser, but who cares? Like it's part of the system, and if you can't take a loss as an options trader, you're not in the right spot. So
yeah,
it's good to learn from these things. It's good to put them in the rear view and go forward. And you've got a lot of other winners and a lot of other trades that are looking really good. And that GDX trade was awesome.
yeah. And that's just it. It's it's a tough mental game sometimes when you're trading, when you see charts like this, when it's like I could have taken a gain here and I could have taken even a bigger gain here. But this was an option that, we knew getting into it, it was going to be volatile. And that's one of the reasons we jump into plays like this. If you want to take a speculative trade on something and you size your position correctly, where it can't hurt you, even if you do get dinged with that 100% loss, with a play like Mara that we know can get legs and we know has a history of these big moves if things break, in our favor. If this thing was a 2, 3, 400% winner right here, and we're at a spot where we're risking a small enough amount where 100% loss isn't really going to kill us, then you want to take that risk reward any day of the week right there. That's why we're in the game right there. And then we're totally fine with taking those losses and dealing with it and then moving on to the next hot play, as long as we just keep doing that thing over and over again and fulfilling um, that trading mission, then we're going to be fine in the long term. It's just a matter of those short-term hurdles. We're
Yeah.
short-term traders, but we're in it for the long haul, and we're going to win over the long term if we do the same things correctly every single time. And like another psychology thing we talk about too is this wasn't a bad trade, it was a bad result. The process was correct. It was just a bad result, and we're going to get bad
Yep.
results sometimes, and we live with it.
Yep. Exactly. All right. You're talking, on to the next stuff. What's the next chart? What's a sector you like? What's a ticker you like? What are some good looking charts right now?
Well, you were talking about recent trades. What about GDX? What about gold?
Yep.
Um, Gold is quietly right up near its all-time highs. Uh, it really lulled everybody to sleep, and the miners are absolutely ripping again today. We took profits, what, right around here? Um, and when I when I sent out the alert to take profits on our calls right here, I said, if you want to hang on to a few, this would be one of those ones you could hang on to, just a little piece of it, just to let it ride. Because yeah, it's probably going to get a little wonky and need to correct in here, but it's starting to feel like the tables are turning. Everything is shaping up in gold's favor right now. If you look at a gold chart, this is gold futures right here. Hey, look, we're breaking out, and okay, so we did break out today. I thought we were
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
right near it, but we're at all-time highs right
Wow,
now
we're rolling, dude.
for gold futures. So you can see this breakout. This is what we wanted that Bitcoin chart to look like. You know, we
Yeah.
have this choppy consolidation right here, and it's not even. This is a strong breakout. This is how you know it's a strong breakout, because it's not even pausing again at the top. Usually you get like a little bit of churn, and maybe like a fake out move lower before it really takes out uh, those highs and starts to run. This ran all the way from the bottom of this consolidation zone without really much of a pullback at all. We got a little bit shaky right here, right after the 4th of July holiday. But I mean, look at how strong this move was off the bottom right here, off of those, 2290 levels. So, this is a serious move that we just saw in gold. And it looks like we're ready to roll again, with gold. And silver's not that far behind right here. They were kind of sluggish earlier today, but gold was still green, even though the dollar was perking up. So something's brewing there. There's just this strength that's in the precious metals market right now. Silver, I feel like, broke out here, right over the 4th of July, and it's been creeping higher. It's not above those highs yet right there, but it's really getting rolling. But the fact that folks are actually buying the miners, it tells us what we need to know. That they're willing to jump into the more speculative vehicles here, and they're not just buying GLD. So I feel like this move, although it's been very sharp so far this month, this move could have some serious legs too, heading into late summer and early fall. And we're right in the sweet spot for gold right here. And the fact that it's breaking out, um, you know, I said back in December on our big editorial call,
Yep.
that 2600 wasn't out of the question for the first half of the year. Well, we finished the first half of the year. Where did we finish? Like 23 something
Yeah, right.
officially.
Get there. Yep.
Yeah,
Right there.
2350-ish. The first half of the year is where we finished off right there. I
And I
mean,
mean, it started at 2000. So it's like that's a substantial move.
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, we were barely above 2000 and still toying with this level right here. But everything was shaping up from that first monthly close above 2K back in November to firming up at the end of December right here. There's been some fake outs, but I mean, this was it right here. This huge thrust that took us from 2000 all the way to 2400 in a matter of like 2 months. And the fact that it's consolidated that move so constructively, and the fact that everybody's jumping into the miners right now, this is a much bigger move in the making. This is a huge change in trend for gold. That we've talked about how, in my view, the new secular bull market began for gold back in 2019. It was interrupted by all the COVID craziness, but it's back on track now. It's a little bit of a delayed move right here, but this is all new super cycle stuff that's like appearing before our very eyes here. It's super exciting. I'm
Yeah.
stoked about it because the miners are great trades. They're fun to trade. They're not the best companies in the world, but in the right environments, these things can rip, and you can see the type of damage they can do right here. I mean, incredible moves.
Yeah. Anything you like there? Because like that's like me, I'm excited. I'm like, oh, I want to get more exposure, maybe into silver, maybe into gold, like gold miners, but more specifically like one or two miners. Any tickers that are flashing on your watch list? Any stocks that you like there?
Well, it's interesting. So there's a lot of smaller miners that are really rocketing higher. But what's caught my eye, believe it or not, is like Newmont because it looked so bad at the beginning of these rallies because it just wasn't playing nice. But look at how Newmont is breaking out and extending right now. It's probably not going to give you the big gains of some of the smaller, uh,
Hmm.
more poorly capitalized ones because it's like that. That's what happens in these in these bull markets for gold miners, the junk is going to be what runs. Your junior miner junk, I think, is going to give you the big momentum moves that
Yeah.
you can follow. If you're scared of some of those, you can just do GDXJ. But the fact that Newmont has really turned it around, I mean, look at this thing. This is back. This is this year. Back in March, it was at $30. It was below $30 right here, and those are prices we hadn't seen since if we discount whatever this blip is in 20. Oh, that was the COVID crash. Those are prices we hadn't seen since June 2019.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this thing was a dog. It totally fell apart in 2022, fell off the face of the earth, and it's just now starting back. So maybe it will, I mean, this is the one big mining stock that everybody knows. I think it's the only one left in the S&P, right? So, you know, the fact that this one is catching and moving higher after looking so bad when some of the other smaller ones, we're catching moving higher. What are some of your favorites? You like what is it?
AGI. It's back on Trading View. I think last week had a hiccup. I don't know what was wrong, but AGI is the ticker. That's always been the
There it is
ticker
right
for
here.
Alamos. Yeah,
Yeah,
like that one looks good.
I feel like these are the ones, and you can see how much better this chart looks than Newmont. It did bottom out in February as well, but you can see how it's back over those 2023 highs already and just on the move again. But if you don't want to like mess with the individual ones, this is the junior miner uh,
Yep.
ETF right here, GDXJ. So that's a fun one right there. That's going to be the smaller ones. So that's going to give you the more explosive moves. It's probably going to give you some downside too, though. It's going to be more volatile. But at the
Yeah.
same time, if you're riding those momentum moves, it's probably going to over deliver. It's up 3.4. What's GDX up today? 3.3. So yeah, it's giving you
Yeah.
a little bit extra, a little something, but over time it can really deliver too. So if we're in that type of environment, which I feel like we are, and folks are going to be jumping on the trashier ones, then hey, why not? You
Yeah,
know,
and think about it. They're basically like it's got the same mentality of the small cap. Like they benefit from lower rates, and then they also benefit from possibly a Trump economy where it's a little bit more accommodative to mining or whatever. So that might only be here in the US, but same thing. I mean, they like lower rates. If they can get better financing, they can dig more holes in the ground and get more gold.
well, and from a money flow perspective, you have to, and we've talked about this a lot. You have to go out and find these investments for yourself. You can't. I mean, you are not exposed to gold miners in any way, shape, or form if you're just sort of sitting in SPY or some other index fund.
Yeah.
So, if these catch and these go on multi-month runs, there's going to be a lot of money chasing it because again, you have to go out and actively get exposure to these names. You're not going to be able to just sit in the queues or inspire or whatever and expect to reap any of the rewards if we're seeing a real rotation into this stuff. So I think that's what's going to happen. The people like like a friend of ours has said recently this week. People don't own enough of it. People don't own enough silver. They don't own enough.
Pull up CDE. That's a silver core mining. Used to be Coeur d'Alene,
That's Coeur
CDE.
d'Alene.
Yeah, that one's looking good.
Yeah, and they're fun. They're cheapies. $6.80 right there.
Optionable. CDE,
Yeah,
Hecla, Nova Gold, they're all optionable and they're super cheap.
it's more than
So
a double off of those February lows too. And it has a little pesky earnings announcement here in early August. May matter, may not. But
yeah,
um,
these aren't tech companies. They're just gonna be like, hey, we got a few more ounces or a few less
we
ounces. Like
dug
it's
some
not,
holes in the ground. We found some metal.
yeah, yeah.
Whatever. But yeah, I mean, great looking chart. Look at the turnaround right here. Nobody wanted silver up until very recently. You know,
Yeah, I think silver's finally the one. I was kind of a naysayer on it because I think gold had more of the big macro, like people want to get to gold to save against inflation. Now you're starting to get a very decent wave of greed. And
Right.
greed is when people go to silver
Yep.
because they're like, I want to make more money. And they go find core mining, CDE, and they buy into that and they buy into this. So I think that's coming. If you looked at that, you were looking at the silver chart a little earlier, that one looks really good. And if silver starts running, all those miners could start really. And again, we're at the very, very tip of the beginning of that narrative.
Well, that's just it. If we put it on a weekly and we go back, I mean, we're not even anywhere near those 2011 highs for silver right there when silver was running toward $50. And you're old enough to remember these big moves. I mean, we remember back in '05 when this really started
Yeah.
to catch and run higher. And like,
Oh 08, oh 08, I was on a beach in Aruba. I had to go to a wedding. Oh, horrible me, destination wedding. I had brokers call me. It was a Friday in September 2008. Gold went up $100, which was a lot. And I
yep.
had brokers calling me. I'm on the beach. I'm like, dude, let's ride this thing. And then gold reset and went bonkers till 2011. And now we're back.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, I think we could see moves. I think we're somewhere like in here, for this type of thrust for like, yeah, it started to rally, but this is where people really pay attention to it. The disbelief rally is run its
Here's
course.
let's see, here's my math. I'm gonna go 13, 7, and then put it on top. So it's oh no, you're on the weird log graph. See, I do the regular one on my charts. But like, yeah, you just kind of see what that size move was and pop.
Matt, are you frozen? Are you frozen or was that me frozen?
I think I was frozen. I don't know.
I
Let's
think
see
you
what
were
happened.
frozen.
You were frozen on my end, so I don't know. It says my internet can is
Okay, all right.
unstable. So everyone's still on YouTube, so that part's good. You want to look up HMY, that's Harmony Gold. These were just some tickers that were coming in.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, looks great. I mean, look at these breakouts. This is up almost 15% today. What's going on?
What's going on is mining.
Yeah,
People,
I
it's
mean,
risk on. The rotation is real and it's happening, and people are,
it's
and
happening.
then it's only a matter, it's like a day or two. It's the next 5 days. They're going into silver. Pull up, speaking of silver, Patrick had PAS, Pan
Yeah, I
American.
mean they all
Look
look.
at
I
that.
mean they all look good. It's tough to find a bad one. Um, but yeah, I think the silver ones are a good bet for momentum. I think the smaller gold ones, I mean, you saw what that last one was doing right there. You get those double digit type moves right there. They're so great, and you don't even really need options to play some of them. They're so cheap. You just grab a few shares, and it's those are the ones that are really going to provide you the nice short-term momentum moves. And so like I said, like when miners stink, they stink. I don't want any parts of them. But when you get into these environments, like you said, where people are buying gold or buying silver, you get that greed that creeps into the precious metals market. It's been a hot minute. And by a hot minute, I mean it's been like what, 20 years, almost 15 years since like everybody's been involved in this sort of thing. So I mean, this is a blast from the past here. Nice rotation into precious metals, and I think it can continue for a long time. So it'll be on my radar for a while to play these stocks, these pops and drops in these stocks for sure.
Real quick question from the chat. Paul wrote and he said, "Is this a day to buy, or do we wait for a pullback on like a feeling day like this, or is it just way more detailed? Like, how do you think about it in general? Is today a good day to buy in general if you like some stuff?"
I mean, if you look at just to use like Pan American as an example, since it's the chart we have up, I think that it's coming out of the top of this quick consolidation right here, and it could totally run from here and maybe, make a run toward 30. I mean, we could get a move like this kind of, and maybe this is just kind of a pause in the middle of it. I would say if you're doing something like that, you're a much shorter term minded trader, when you're looking for a quick move to get in and out of. But like if you're thinking more longer term for something like this, then I would just wait and see like, is it going to start filling this gap right here? Are we going to get some sort of a retest and then a bounce, something like that. I'm not a big fan of like just buying red days on stuff like this. I like to see like, if it's going to retrace something, I want to see it bounce first and then jump on board just to get an idea of like, yeah, these breakouts are legit. And it's not just like, going to retest the level and then drop back down and just waste my time chopping along sideways. So like, that's how I would think of a play like this. I mean, I know it kind of feels like these are tough to buy because it feels like you're chasing, but the reality is these moves can really be powerful. I don't think it would hurt at all to try to buy something like this here and then put in your stop. Maybe depending upon how aggressive you're feeling, maybe at like yesterday's lows down here in the low 23s. I don't see a problem with something like that and just trying to ride a move higher. I mean, we could gap up again tomorrow and run. It's entirely possible, but I understand the reluctance to do stuff like that. It's tough to hold your nose and buy some of these. I mean, just going back to small caps. I mean, like, I'm gonna wait and see like how this thing consolidates before I jump on board. It's been such a strong, unexpected move here. I mean, I don't think a lot of people were saying, okay, we broke out right here, and I'm totally buying that breakout, since every single other time that it's done that this year, it's retreated back into its range. But now we actually have some extension. So let's see how it consolidates. Does it consolidate up here, or does it have to come back and retest like, the 214, 212 level? Does it have to go all the way back down here to 210 before it
Yeah.
moves higher again? I want to see like how it develops before I start really chasing this thing.
If you leave that chart up right now, this is the one that I regret the most because you said this in November. And again, it was some weird, very specific stat that I made you re-pull again. That was
All
like
right.
24 out of 24 times when it did this magical thing, the IWM was up like within like in 12 months, it was up and on an average of 25%. If you look at that time, it was somewhere right around
It
third
was in
week
early November. It was right around
third
here.
week in November, something like
Yeah.
that. It was right around there, and you're like, oh, it did this weird thing that's only happened. It happened 24 times, 24 for 24, and 1 year later, it's up. And right now, we're looking like it's going to be up, and it's going to be whatever. That's probably 175 up to now, almost 225. So we're talking a good amount. That's a 20% move so far. It could be closer to 30, 40% by the time we get to a year out.
Yeah. And again, I think it's going to provide a lot of great trading opportunities too. Um, and I don't think it's small caps either. I think that there's a lot of, I don't want to say it's like a totally like a dash for trash in this market, but there's a lot of, going back to what we said earlier, there's a lot of moves like the unloved or the hated stocks like Tesla, where nobody wanted them and now everybody does. Oops, I can't spell Tesla. Um, you know, Nobody wanted it down here, then everybody started for a while. Obviously, these are the hardest hit stocks during the when the market peaked out in 21, and then when it really rolled over into the bear market of 22. And then we have here this, whatever this base is that it's been trying to form. It has not kept up with the rest of the market. It did see a bump uh, during the melt up rally in late 2023, but again, it hit those highs right around Christmas time, and then totally fell apart into January. And then instead of people piling into these Cathie Wood tech growth stocks, everybody piled into Nvidia, SMCI, Microsoft, Google, Meta, the Mag Sevens minus Tesla. Everybody was piling into those stocks, and they sold these things off. All these stocks looked terrible. Some looked really terrible. A good example, here's I own some shares of this Square. Square has looked bad. Again, it popped. It attempted to rally here after earnings and kind of rolled over. But it looked like it was going to break down. Here at this 61, 62 level, as recently as like less than a month ago, and it's started to shoot higher. Look, this was last week right here. This is that magical Thursday rotation that started where, oh, look, and then boom, 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 you get this big 3-day move that took us from what, 65 to 72-ish, and now it's consolidating right here near the top of this candle. It's not even giving any of this back. We have a new trade on today in another one of these, which is even worse looking, Unity, because this thing started bouncing uh, late last week, and posting these big moves out of nowhere off the lows. This stock, it couldn't even get a buyer between the 15th of May and all the way down here to June 21st, the first day of summer. This thing had 3 or 4 green days in a matter of 6 weeks right here, where everybody was selling it. Look at all these, look at all the red volume, look at all these red bars right here. And then it comes down here and it looks like it's going to break down again, below $15, and it starts to pop. And it was only down 1% after it looked like it was going to flame out yesterday. And then it started running this morning, and it's still holding strong in the 17s right here. This is one of these stocks that could go to $20 in a hurry because everybody's on the wrong side of the trade. It has about a 10% short float. I think all we have to do is get over this $18 hump right here, and it could really change how, folks perceive it. And you can get a lot of people piling into these hated names right here. And again, this stock has looked like garbage, and probably for good reason right here. Look at this breakdown. This thing is ugly right here. That's where it really started to break down right here, because this was the level where buyers kept on creeping in around $23.
Mhm.
This could be a situation, and again, this is a best case scenario, but if this thing really catches fire, it could be back up to $23 before you can blink your eyes. So a lot going on with this. Yes, there's earnings right here on the 8th of August coming up, but these are the type of trades in this market that can really, really run if this rotation just keeps on spinning.
Yep. Do you want to do some tickers that I'm seeing in the chat? There were a couple from earlier.
Hit me.
Let's do AI. Let's do the ticker AI.
Yeah, you know what? AI was something I was looking at. It's been a little janky here because you can see how it's been tailing off every time it kind of rallies above $30. And it's running into sellers for whatever reason. But it's trying to shape up right here. And it feels like this is part of like a bigger, choppier coil. And I don't really like the chart so much because it's a complete mess. But I do like it because this is kind of the AI is the AI trade that was kind of left for dead when everybody was piling into NVIDIA and that sort of thing. It's had histories of big pops higher. It's got the best ticker,
Yeah.
So if we
Well,
get into
that's probably why it's janky too, because like this is gonna make me look dumb, which I'm
no,
never
no, no, no,
ashamed
you're no, I know
of
where you're going
doing.
with
But
that.
it's like
You're right.
I don't even know what they do. What does
Right.
AI C3 AI do? I don't know. I know what NVIDIA does. I know what
Right.
Palantir does. I have no clue what C3 AI does.
Yeah. Yeah, they're on the software side, but yeah, I agree. I think that's kind of like it's great and terrible at the same time that it has the ticker AI. It's locked up the best ticker,
Yeah.
for the entire industry. But, at the same time, this stock has shown in the past, this is when the AI theme was reborn right here. January 2023. Remember, nobody cared about AI until magically, all the chat GPT stuff started. And you saw this go from $10 to $30 like instantaneously. And there's a lot of junk in between there. And we've been sort of bouncing around here ever since. If this thing really catches, $36, easy. It just has to get
Yeah.
over the hump. I don't think it's ideal looking, obviously, but it's one of those names that I have one eyeball on at all times right now because it's creeping back toward 30 after just getting slammed post earnings here back in March and April. But it's up $10 from its lows. It's never going to be perfect. You can see here these big gaps higher where it was up 20% and then it ran and then it gave back a lot of that and had to totally reset back down to 26, $27 and move higher. But yeah, it's totally worth keeping an eye on to see if it can't get back up here
Yeah.
and test and consolidate near 37 and then run.
All right. The next one we got is VST. I think it's Vistra. Someone might have to write in. It seems like
BST.
V like Victor, VST.
Okay.
I'm not sure what this one is. This might be someone else published it. And again, if it's somewhere in house, like if somebody wants to write in like what this company does, I'm not sure what they do, but
It's a utility.
okay. Never mind. So yeah, electric play. That's good.
Yeah, it's an electric play. Yeah.
SoFi is another one, SOFI. Or if
Well,
you want to stay on
this
this
one
one.
right here, like I would say I would watch this 84 level here. It's fine as long as it stays above that, but it got hit pretty hard here into June. And then we have a situation where it ran into sellers again at 95 like it did back here, and it wasn't really able to come up near that 105 mark again. So, I mean, while it hasn't totally broken down yet, like I'd kind of watch to see if this isn't like, I mean, it's this okay. Everybody wants to call stuff like this, oh, this is the top, this is the top, this is the top. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe this is just some sort of consolidation. I would watch and see how it gets toward the end of this pattern here and then see how it reacts. If it breaks down, it might need to go back down to 73. If it gets above like 90, then maybe it can go back to 100 again, and then we'll see if it's out of that consolidation phase. For now, it's chopping sideways. So that's how I see that one.
Yep. The other one was SoFi, SOFI.
Yeah. Again, this feels like one of those rotation trades in the making right here. You see, like it's been going straight up since faking lower. Look at that. Last Tuesday, it was down here. Looked like it was about to break down to $6, and it didn't. And it's shot higher ever since, and it's working on taking out the 760 level right here. I mean, I like this. I like this a lot. It probably needs to like chill out right here. I say that and watch it gap up like 10% tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's how these plays work. But yeah, you're looking at a stock that nobody wanted to own, and now everybody's piling into it. Yeah, I think it looks pretty darn good right here. It could use some more volume, but it's running up into earnings. So we have earnings on 30th. So earnings in a couple weeks right here. Maybe we'll get a nice run heading into earnings, and then who knows? But yeah, it looks like it wants to come up here and test the top of this range somewhere between like 770 and $8. And from there, if it breaks out, this thing could really get going. This could be a big change in trend for a stock like this.
Yep. Another one was DRD. I think that's a gold
That's a
play.
gold, isn't it?
Yeah, Dr. Gold.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. These are breaking out like crazy today. I haven't gone through all the miners today, but you see these gaps higher in these runs here. I mean, again, massive changes in trend. We went from, like just bleeding right here to sideways, and now it's taken off. So yeah, looks great. Can't complain. If you own this thing, you're very happy right now, right? Can't complain.
Yep. I think Patrick's probably testing me. And again, this is a good test. I need to be tested every now and then. He said, tell us what Palantir does. And it's like compared to C3 AI, right? C3 AI, no clue. Palantir, here's what I bet they do. They take a bunch of metadata and spit out spy information to the government. So
yeah,
it's like, hey, do you want to have a crawler that crawls through everyone's facial recognition software and find out how many people went into an NFL game and who was there? Palantir probably does that. Oh, you want him to go through all of a company's Slacks for the past 7 years and find out what weird stuff they were doing? Like Palantir probably does that. So do I actually no, I'm not in the middle of Palantir. And I think a lot of stuff they do, because they're a government contractor, is not stuff that they're openly. They use words like synergies and fusions and stuff like that, but it's they're doing heavy data, and the government's paying them for it. So they're doing some dirty work, which again I like, because why not get paid on that kind of thing? And they look good.
Yeah, I mean, I like. See, you don't have to know too much if you're a trader, which is kind of
Someone
nice.
smarter than me should put it in there. People are like, "Oh, thanks, Matt." It's like someone that knows, put some more comments into the comment of what Palantir does. But that's how I think about it, because I've been following them since they were non-public, and then they go public, and it's like, all right, that's I think what they're doing. And I've been there, like when I went to CES earlier this year. There are some crazy things out there with, like, again, recognition, data, all these different things, and the softwares that can go on top of that and spit out useful or spyware, like useful information, are very valuable at this point, especially on heavy duty data. So we'll see.
Yeah. And like the thing I like about Palantir from an idiot's perspective is that you can plug in any buzzword and it probably is involved in that somehow. AI, yeah, it definitely is involved in AI. Cybersecurity, yeah, totally, it's in the cybersecurity sector too. Software, oh yep, it's in the software sector. Defense, yeah, it's in that too. So it's, and I think that works for it and against it in some way, where you can it's a hard company to like go out there and elevator pitch to somebody. Um, but at the same time, it covers a lot of the hot trend categories out there, and you can shoehorn it into a bunch of different areas of the market.
Yeah. Let's see. Any other we can look at Enrique. Enrique's in there. I love TLN. TL that was that's Talon. It used to be TLNE. They changed tickers. It's TLN now. That one is still looking good. Oof.
It just goes up.
Yeah.
Can't complain about that one.
And again, that's a nuclear play. We might as well pull. I pulled some of these up on the Rickard's call on Friday with Zach Scheit, but SMR, pull up SMR because you're getting into this like a lot of pro nuclear stuff happening as well.
Yeah.
Like this stock, some people wrote it off there in April for good. Like that was a big old pullback, and since then, God bless it,
Well, these
people
are
are
tough. I
liking
mean,
them.
like we've talked about this before. Like these can be tough traders. The uranium stocks are tough traders. They're just tough to get a beat on. Like like CCJ. I mean, you can see how messy it gets. Big green candles, big red candles everywhere.
Hmm.
So, like, URA, which is the global uranium ETF, it's been sloppy as hell as well. I mean,
Yeah,
looked
but
like
if
it was
someone doesn't
breaking
know,
out.
like bunch of stuff came out in the last week or two. Kazakhstan went in, they put some tariffs on their exports. They're the biggest exporter of uranium.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
big because overnight you could wake up and they go, hey, it's going to be 25% now. That just raises the price of
That was
uranium on a
this.
global
That was this
level.
green candle right
Yep.
here.
And then the other thing is the Congress actually every now and then they pass things, and then every now and then the president signs them. It's called a law. It doesn't happen often. Most of the time they just argue about stuff, but they
Never heard of it.
pass
Yeah.
something called the Advance Act with some acronym, but it's basically nuclear. So
Yeah.
that's bipartisan saying we need electricity and we need nuclear to streamline some growth in that sector because it's actually the greenest, most reliable thing.
Yeah.
So let's do it.
Yeah. I want to bring back the George W. Bush nuclear pronunciation, though. I think we should start doing that.
All right. Maybe that could be your ticker, dude. Let's see. IRM. I don't know what IRM is. Sometimes I'll look at these. Oh, never mind. I know Iron Mountain. I love Iron Mountain. It's such a memorable company name, right? It's like they just have data and it's like you think of it as like an Iron Mountain. I think they actually have servers in mountains, right?
Sure. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's a great looking chart, though. It's
It
straight
doesn't
up.
matter what they do. Iron Mountains are a buy.
Yeah. That sounds cool. Sounds like a hideout for a superhero team. Go to the Iron Mountain. I'm down with that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like $100 magnet right there. It wouldn't hurt to take some gains off the table on this bad boy at some point. I mean, it's basically gone straight up since the end of May, 78 to 100. That's pretty darn good. But yeah, it looks amazing.
Yeah. Data storage. And again, if you're in the world of AI and spitting out all these pieces of data, you need to store it somewhere and whatnot. And again, I think they're servers, et cetera, data. So lots going on in that space. All right, Gunnar, any other, what are some tickers? Any other tickers you had on your list? Let me look at the agenda real quick. Anything else you like?
I think the only thing that we really haven't looked at is kind of the China failures. And I haven't looked at FXI today. But yeah, I mean, you saw like it kind of hooked and looked like it was going to break out again. And then again, this was kind of, I think, the Trump adjustment where these are going back down. I think the same thing happened to like Baidu, maybe. Yeah. So you had like what looked like some pretty big breakouts materializing. So these are the rotations that aren't rotating right here. That's how I would classify these, where it looked like something was brewing in these stocks, and then uh, they're failing, or at least they're consolidating much lower, and they're going to get messy. So
Mhm.
I'm kind of avoiding these just due to like the news aspect of them. I had them on the radar right there, but for the most part, I think that like some of those tech growth snapbacks, we're in U now. I like that as an idea in this market. I mean, small caps are just exploding higher. Precious metals look amazing. There's a lot to be excited about in this market in the short term and in the longer term. As we kind of move away from, or potentially move away from the big semi leadership stocks, which again, they're still leading. I mean, 3 out of 4 down days right there. I'm not calling the top on these in any way, shape, or form, but we are seeing some pretty violent rotations here, and we need to be able to take advantage of those as traders moving into the end of the month.
Yeah. One theme that I will say, and again, this does not have anything to do with actual rotation or looking at charts first, but it's more fundamental. So I'm coming from my little world, right? I think we are heading into a world, Palantir's included, obviously, into a world where AI plus defense, and then you add in, the potential Trump victory. That world, like there's one of the companies that I think Dan Amos has been looking at, and some other stuff is Kratos, CTOS. If you want to pull that one up, but I think
CTOS?
KTOS. Sorry.
Yeah.
Um, but that's one where again, it's you're in the right spot, and if you start getting some more money flowing into this sort of like AI and military combo, Palantir's one of them, Kratos is one of them. There's probably many, many more. Um,
And it looks like
there,
it's completing a base too, right
yeah,
here. So I mean, this is one of those stocks, and this is I don't know much about it, but from purely a price perspective, it could shoot up $10 from here pretty easily. So definitely an interesting looking chart as far as I'm concerned. They do have earnings coming up August 1st, but yeah, looks good, very solid.
yeah. All right, I'm checking out the comments. Yeah, Gunnar, I think we've gotten through most of the tickers there, and if not, we can always cover it next week. But what are some last words? Anything else we want to look at for this week, or anything that any forecasts in between now and next time we catch up?
No, just think strategically when you're looking at these rotation trades. If you're feeling scared to chase some of them, especially IWM, I know these small caps are just blasting off. Watch and see how they consolidate and look for those pauses and those places where you can try to get in on these plays. I know it really hasn't paused yet, but it will eventually. They're not going to go, IWM is not going to go up 2% every day for the rest of the year, but there will be opportunities to get into these trades. I think we're still early in these rotations right here. I don't think they're just going to retreat back into their range. This rotation has been so strong and so violent that I think it's going to continue. And there's going to be plenty of opportunities in the weeks ahead to play these in the short term and maybe longer term position trading or even longer time frames.
Yeah. And from my more emotional sense and fundamental sense, I think this rotation that Gunnar is talking about is very real. And since we're kind of in summer, low volume, you could get 45 days of running here on some of these. Again, they're interest rate cut slash Trump slash inflation trades. Things are looking good there, and it's really warming up. So now might be the time to pick out some of your favorites there and some of these little quick rotations. Gunnar, thanks for everything. I appreciate all the tickers. I know everyone in the comments, and I say this every week, but I truly do appreciate all the comments. Very insightful stuff there from the regulars on the crew. So we'll be staying tuned. Any of your paid readership in the trading desk, they've got access for the daily trade talk, trade chat. So we'll be tuning in tomorrow at 8:30. And otherwise, we'll see everyone next week for top trades. Thanks again for tuning in. Gunnar, thanks for all the insights. We appreciate
Thanks,
it.
guys. Yep.
See you, everyone.